right, fourth grade friends, we are going to go over Chapter 5's homework page, and then we'll do our words to know, and we'll do Chapter 6 reading and starting to fill out our packet. So, find your Chapter 5 for me. All right, you had just 2 parts to do. You had to do like the problem and solution, finishing that up, and then the stop and jot. Let's start with the problem and solution part, okay? So, our problem was Marty needs to get food out to Shiloh without telling his parents. How does Marty solve that problem? What does he do to make it better? Remember, Ryan?
He kind of is like lying that like he always gets like a little more hungry after dinner.
Yeah.
So he can like put leftovers in the fridge and then take it out to Shiloh and tell his mom.
Yeah, he says like he gets hungry later and takes the leftovers out, right? Leftovers out. Anyone have anything different? Yeah, that's the one I thought of too. All right, now we knew the solution, but we didn't know what went wrong. So our solution was Marty tells him that he did not see the dog at their house or on his walk that day. What made him say that? What was going wrong? What was that problem? What was that problem, Christian?
Because if you got him back, he would give him that.
You're close. You're missing one part. Go back a little bit further. Brooke?
Judd came over and asked Marty or his dad if they seen the dog. And Marty was starting to get a little nervous, and Judd maybe was starting to get a little on him. I'm not sure, actually.
Yeah, so we know that Judd came over and asked if they saw, remember, he calls it just the dog, right? Does Judd call the dog Shiloh? No, because does Judd really care about the dog? No, so he doesn't even give it the name, remember? All his dog's names are like Git, Scram, right? And other word that we don't say. Yes. All right. So we know the problem was Judd's coming over. Marty's like, haven't seen a dog in the yard today, right? Thinking, who got away with that one? Do you think he's going to get away with it?
Nope.
I don't know. We'll have to see. All right. And then our stop and jot was more of your opinion ones. Do you think Marty should give Shiloh back? Why or why not? What do you think? What do you think, Maddie?
No, because he wants to kill Shiloh.
Who does?
Judd.
Not just he. Which he? There's lots of he's.
Yeah. Actually, there is.
Marty's dad, Judd. Judd wants to hurt Shiloh, so you don't think he should give Shiloh back because you're afraid Shiloh will get hurt. All right, does anyone disagree and think Marty should give the dog back? Micah, you do? Why should he give the dog back?
Because if Judd finds out that he has the dog, then he might not sell him to Marty.
Remember, Marty's thinking, I'm going to try and buy the dog, so if he finds out that Marty's really holding the dog, kind of like stealing him, right? Maybe he won't sell at all. Why else? Can you think of another reason why Marty should give the dog back? It might not be the reason that you might not agree with it, but can you think of another reason that Marty might be thinking of? Camille?
Because Shiloh's not Marty's dog.
Shiloh's not Marty's dog. As much as we don't want to see the dog get hurt, is it Marty's? No, right? And kind of going off of that, not Marty's dog, what else is kind of important to Marty and his family? Like, why would Marty and his family not be the best for the dog? Why would they not? Rose?
Because their grandma is sick, and every like money either goes to their house bills or goes to and then it goes to their grandma's. And since they're trying not to spend so much money, like every like meal's turning into soup.
Right.
And so that saves money.
Yeah, so they try and save all the leftovers, right? Nothing gets wasted. They save all of their food scraps. All their extra money goes to help Grandma Preston, right? They don't have any extra money. And our dog's cheap.
No, they're like $100 more.
They're more, probably about $100 a month at least, between food and vet and everything at the cheap end. All right, so let's see. Are we good on chapter 5? Any other things we need to share for you, Stop and Jot? Zach? The worse the punishment's gonna be, right? Because we know mom and dad are pretty strict, right? They're really bad at the book. Thomas?
I think you should give it back because he's pretty much just stealing a dog from someone.
He's kind of stealing.
But for a good reason, but he's still stealing a dog.
That's kind of where Marty's having this dilemma, right? Like, I know I shouldn't steal, but is Shiloh from a good place? No, he's kind of in this catch area where he's like, I know this isn't good, but this is almost worse. So is it really bad if it's for the dog?
You shouldn't give it back because Judd already went to his house and he already asked him questions and Shiloh is there. And then if he finds out that he has the dog, then he might try to go after Marty.
That's kind of going a little bit off of Micah's one a little bit, isn't it? Okay. Isaac?
I don't think you should do it now because Shiloh and Shiloh went to Marty.
Yeah, right. Shiloh, not only once. How many times has Shiloh gone to Marty? How many times? Taka, how many times has he come? Two, right? The first time, and then he left, and now he's like, I'm not letting this dog go. And so Shiloh's only come and gone. He's come to Marty twice so far, okay? I know there's a lot more, okay? Let's look at our vocab words for today's chapter. We got 2 words. Remember, if you kind of lift it up, you can kind of see it a little better. Our first word is devilment. So say that with me. Devilment. Now, we see kind of a bad word hidden in there. I bet you can kind of see. Okay? Devilment means a behavior that causes trouble. Because usually we associate the devil with like bad things or troubled things. Yeah. So devilment means behavior that causes trouble. Okay? Zach?
I wonder if that's going to be for Judd or Marty.
It does kind of say evil in there too, so we know that evil kind of goes with it because that's hidden inside that first word. Nice eye. All right, so we have devilment, and our last one is kind of hard to see. This one's tricky. Plunks. What to plunk? It comes from the verb to plunk. It means somebody. Oh, I need my 2 dots. It means somebody sits down suddenly. That's a long word. Suddenly, in a careless way. Some of you, when you come in, you plunk your stuff down on your desk, don't you? You kind of put it down carelessly. It's kind of almost like you're throwing it or throwing yourself into your chair. Like sometimes when you get home, you might plunk down on the couch, right, and kind of just lay there. I'm looking for a mind it. Please give me a thumbs up when you are done with your vocab words, so I know when I can move on. Looks like we're almost there.
I can't do vocab words.
All right. So let's take a look while my friends are finishing those up. Our rest of our parts. We have a justify it in the top right corner. So we're going to have to figure out how Marty justifies his lies. We're going to do a character trait on Judd. We're going to do point of view. And then we're going to stop and jot and answer that question. Remember, some of this will be your homework too, okay, 4th grade friends? All right, so let's get our books open to chapter 6. Mine is on page 55.
55.
All right. Here we go, chapter 6. Let's see, we last left. Remember, and Judd came to the house and he said, remember, the law's not going to tell me what to do with my dog. And that's how we ended that chapter. So Marty kind of lied to Judd. And Judd's like, I'm not scared of the law. Cops can't hurt me. All right, chapter 6. Night in West Virginia is as dark as black can be. No car lights sweeping across my walls or ceilings like when I stay overnight with David Howard down in Friendly. No street lamps shining in the windows. No lights from next door houses. Where I live, there ain't no street lamps at all. No house close enough to see from our windows. My eyes are open anyway. I stare up into the darkness of the living room, and the darkness stares back. I'm remembering how once, several years ago, when Ma bought milk chocolate rabbits one Easter for me and Dara Lynn, I'd finished eating mine, but Dara Lynn took only a nibble of hers every day or so, keeping it up on her dresser in its pink and yellow tinfoil, driving me nuts. And one day, I just crept in there and ate off one of that rabbit's ears. Dara Lynn, of course, threw a fit. And when Ma asked me if I'd done it, I said no. I could feel my cheeks and neck burning red. You sure, Marty? She asked. I'd only nodded and left the room. It was one of the worst days of my life. About an hour later, she came out on the porch where I was pushing myself slow in the swing and sat down beside me. You know, Marty, she said, Dara Lynn don't know who ate the ear off her candy rabbit, and I don't know who did it, but Jesus knows. And right this very minute, Jesus is looking down with the saddest eyes on the person who ate that chocolate. The Bible says that the worst thing that can ever possibly happen to us is to be separated forever from God's love. I hope you'll keep that in mind. I just swallowed and didn't say anything. But before I went to bed, when Ma asked me again about the rabbit, I gulped and said yes. And she made me get down on my knees and ask for God's forgiveness, which wasn't so bad. I honestly felt better afterward. But then she said that Jesus wanted me to go in the next room and tell Dara Lynn what I'd done. And Dara Lynn had a fit all over again. Threw a box of Crayolas at me. Could have broken my nose. Called me a rotten, greedy pig. If that made Jesus sad, Ma never said. Now, as I study the darkness in the room around me, I'm thinking about lies again. I hadn't lied to Judd Travers, so when I said I hadn't seen his dog in the yard today, that was the honest-to-God truth, because Shiloh hadn't been anywhere near our yard. But I also know that you can lie not only by what you say, but what you don't say. Nothing I told Judd was an outright lie, but when I'd kept inside of myself, made him think that I hadn't seen his dog at all. Jesus, I finally whisper, what you want me to do? Be 100% honest and carry that dog back to Judd so that one of your creatures can be kicked and starved all over again? Or keep him here and fatten him up to glorify your creation? The question seemed to answer itself, and I'm pretty proud of that prayer. Repeat it to myself so as to remember it in case I need to use it again. If Jesus is anything like the story cards from Sunday school make him out to be, he ain't the kind to want a thin little beagle to be hurt. The problem's more mixed up than that, though. I'm lying to my folks as well. I'm not eating the leftover meatloaf I've put away. Every bit of food saved is money saved. Every bit of food saved is money saved that could go to buy Dara Lynn a new pair of sneakers, so Ma won't have to cut open the tops of her old ones to give her toes more room. Every little bit of food wasted is money wasted. If we ever have the least bit of money to spare that doesn't have to go to the care of Grandma Preston, first thing we all want is a telephone, so we don't have to ride down to Doc Murphy's to use his. But the way I figure, if it's food from my own plate, I would have eaten myself, but don't. What's the harm in that? Next morning, when I get up to see Shiloh, I put the rope on his collar and lead him to the other side of the hill again, out of sight of all but God. Then I let him go, and we race and tumble and laugh and roll, stopping now and then just to lie in the clover, me on my back, Shiloh on his stomach, both of us panting and nuzzling each other. Don't know if Shiloh's getting more human or I'm getting to be more dog. If Jesus ever comes back to earth again, I'm thinking he'll come as a dog, because there isn't anything as humble or patient or loving or loyal as the dog I have in my arms right now. We eat our Sunday meal, but by late afternoon, storm clouds roll in, and the rain beats down on the tin roof of our house, streaming down the window glass, making a small pond in the side yard. I can't help staring out the window at the far hill. Will Shiloh, can he even, leap that fence to try and go somewhere it's more dry? Is he smart enough to go under that lean-to I made for him? Have I built it right, away from the wind? What if he gets to howling? In 20 minutes, the rain stops, though. The sun comes out, the birds start to sing again, all those worms oozing up through the wet mud. Shiloh stayed where he was, trusted me that where I put him was best. Being quiet, like he knows his life depends on it. Marty, Dad says, going outside with a rag to wipe off his Jeep. Sorry, fourth graders. I saw Mrs. Howard yesterday, and she said David was back in Tennessee, wanting to know when you boys could get together. She said David would like to come up here someday next week. I like David Howard fine, but I sure don't want him up here. David likes the hill, always wants to play there. He's not afraid of snakes the way Darlene is. David, in fact, likes to go to the very top of the hill, then go running lickety-split down it, racing to see who's first to the fence at the bottom. Likes to climb the trees up there, too, and play lookout. Well, I'll go down to David's tomorrow, I say. I'd rather do that. Why not do both? Ma says, coming out to throw some mash to the hens. You've hardly seen any friends all summer, Marty. Why don't you go down to Friendly one afternoon and ask David to come up here another? There's nothing much to do up here, I say, not knowing how else to answer. It's the wrong answer. Both Ma and Dad were looking at me now. You just said the other day you had plenty to do up here, Dad tells me, reading out his rag at the pump. Lots for me to do, but not much for David Howard, I say. A lie. It's a flat-out lie. Funny how one lie leads to another, and before you know it, your whole life can be a lie. I sit on the porch swing later, not even bothering to push it, and listen to the table being set inside. What you figure's wrong with that boy, Lou? Dad's voice. Just being 11, I guess, Ma tells him. 11's a moody age. Was for me, anyways. You think that's all it is? What pleases you one day don't please you at all the next. What more do you think it is? Don't think he's got that dog on his mind still, do you? 11's got about everything on its mind, Ma answers. And then the evening news comes on, and Darlene and Becky come out to the porch, leaving the TV to Daddy. Darlene's got the devil in her tonight, a little bit bored with summer, but not quite ready for school to start. Just for devilment, she plunks herself down beside me in that swing and starts doing everything I do. I sigh, she sighs. I rest my arms on my head, she does the same. Gets Becky doing it too, both of them laughing to beat the band. When I have my fill of this nonsense, I decide to go up the hill and see how Shiloh's doing. But as I go down off the porch, Darlene gets up and makes it to follow me. I stop. I'm looking to find me a snake stick, I say as if to myself. I'm looking to find me a snake stick, Darlene says. I don't pay her no mind at all. Just start walking along the edge of the yard, picking up a stick here, stick there, Darlene tagging along behind. It's got to have the longest handle and a good strong fork on the end, I say, because that was the biggest, meanest snake I ever saw in my life. Darlene stops dead. She couldn't say all that right if she tried, but she's not interested anymore in trying. What snake? She says. Snake I saw up on the hill this morning, I tell her. Must have been 4 or 5 feet long, just looking for somebody's leg to wrap itself around. Darlene don't go a step farther. Becky don't even come down off the porch. What are you going to do when you find it? Darlene asks. Try to keep it from biting me first. Pick it up with my stick second. Put it in a sack and carry it clear on up past the Shiloh schoolhouse. Let it out in the woods there. Won't kill it unless I have to. Kill it, Darlin says. Get your gun and blow its head off. Anyone else feel that way about snakes?
No.
Just Miss Long?
Actually, yes. Some snakes.
You've been watching too much on TV, darling. I tell her. Even snakes got the right to live. I'm thinking how if I ever become a vet's helper, I gotta take care of pet snakes too. Next day to head off David Howard from riding up from Friendly on his bike, I go down to see him. I tended to Shiloh first, taking a fistful of scrambled eggs left over from breakfast, a bit of bacon, and a half a slice of whole wheat toast that I stuck in my jeans pocket. It's not enough for the dog, I know, but probably more than he'd get from Judd. It's not enough for me either. Sneaking up half my breakfast, lunch, and dinner for Shiloh, like I'm doing means me going hungry all the time. But if I eat extra, then it means Shiloh's costing us money we can't afford. I fill my pockets with wormy peaches before I set out for Friendly, biting off each piece, spitting it out of my hand, and picking out the worms before I put it back in my mouth. It pleased me that Shiloh was sleeping in his lean-to when I got up that morning. The ground was dry under there, and I brought up some old gunny sacks from the shed for him to lie on. Made it seem more like a bed to him, more like a home. The walk to Friendly takes a good long time unless I hitch a ride. I'm not allowed to get in a car with somebody I don't know. But Dad being the mail carrier for this part of the county, I know almost everybody who goes by. The first person to come along this day, though, is Judd Travers. When I hear the sound of a motor and turn to see his truck slowing down, I turn forward again and keep on walking, but he pulls up beside me. Want a lift? He sings out. No thanks, I say, almost there. Where you going? I couldn't think fast enough to lie. David Howard's. Hell, boy, you ain't even halfway. Hop in. I know I don't have to unless I want, but if he's already suspicious about me, that'll only make it worse. So I get in. See my dog yet? First thing out of his mouth. I've been looking all over the roads, I tell him in answer. No beagle. Well, I don't think he'd stick to roads, Judd says. Not a dog as shy as him. Shy as a field mouse, except when he's around rabbits. That's what the man said who sold him to me, and he sure was right about that. How much did you pay for him? I ask. Got him cheap 'cause he's shy. $35. Worth a whole lot more than that as a hunting dog. If I could just keep that damned animal home. You gotta treat a dog good if you want him to stick around, I say, bold as brass. What you know about it? Judd jerks his head in my direction, then turns the other way and spits his tobacco out the window. You never even had a dog, did you? I figure a dog's the same as a kid. You don't treat a kid right, he'll run off the first chance he gets too. Judd laughs. Well, if that was true, I would have run away when I was 4. Far back as I can remember, Pa took the belt to me. Big old welts on my back, so raw I could hardly pull my shirt on. I stuck around. Didn't have any place else to go. I turned out, didn't I? Turned out how? The boldness in my chest is growing, taking up all the air. Now Judd sounds mad. You trying to be smart with me, boy? No, just asking how you turned out. Somebody who was beat since he was 4. I feel sorry is what I feel. Judd's real quiet a moment. The big old wad of tobacco in his cheek bobs up and down. Well, don't go wasting your sorry on me, he says. Nobody ever felt sorry for me, and I never felt sorry for nobody else. Sorry's something I can do without. I don't say anything at all. We reach the road where David Howard lives, and the truck slows down. I can walk from here, I tell him. Thanks. I get out. But as I come around the truck to cross the street, Judd leans out the window. Like I said, that dog's a shy one. Don't think you'll see much of him near the road, but you keep your eye out for him in the fields. That's where he'll be, more than likely. You see him, all you gotta do is whistle. That's what I teach him. I whistle, and he comes to me. He gets fed. But he does something I don't like, I kick him clear to China. You see him, just whistle. Then hang on. Just whistle, then hang on to him, and I'll come pick him up. You hear? I hear, I tell him, and keep walking. And we'll read chapter 7 tomorrow.
That's pretty good.
But let's have a little chat about chapter 6 first. What do you think about the question that Marty asked Jesus? Remember how he was like, "That's a good prayer. I keep repeating it to myself." What do you think about that? What do you think about that prayer, Lily?
Honestly, it's not. It's kind of seems like you can either hurt the animal that you created, or I could try to keep them alive.
Yeah. So is he kind of almost blaming Jesus for it? Do you think?
No.
You don't think so?
No. A tiny bit.
Tiny. Why do you think a tiny bit, Brooke?
I think it's more like Jesus is mostly like there are two sides to it. Jesus is creation, and the other side, which I don't really want to say, is destruction.
Mm-hmm.
So, which one do you think now? Jesus, creation. Other, destruction. Creation.
Okay. All right. Zach. Yeah. Not right this moment.
How
Jesus at a point where he knows the answer, because he put it that way, but if he put it some other way, then maybe it's not.
Right? Do you think Marty worded it that way on purpose?
Yeah.
He kind of skewed it a little bit, didn't he? He was like, I want this answer to come out, so I'm going to word it this way, and the answer is already said. Zane? Maybe. We'll see. Okay. Terry, where are you? You're over there now. Okay. Levi? Okay. All right. So Marty hops in the Jeep with Judd. Why does he feel like he has to ride with Judd? What did he say? Thomas?
Just probably already suspicious of him that he said he's already almost there, but then he was like not even halfway there.
Right.
He didn't want to be more suspicious, like not getting in the car.
He was like, well, I'm halfway there. And Judd's like, no, you're not. Get in. And if he said no, he'd be like, what is he trying to hide from me? I heard a lot of you saying that suspicious word. That's awesome. And how do you think? So this one's kind of a deep question, fourth grade friends. We learned a lot about Judd. How does his childhood make him the person he is now? Did you catch that? What happened in his childhood? What happened in his childhood? Maddie? He kind of got treated badly. Do you remember what he said happened when he was a boy? What did his dad do?
That's not mine.
Did you catch it, Isaac? He would whip him with a belt, so he'd take the belt off and like hit him. Which end of the belt do you think he hit him with too? The clasp, like that metal part, right? So does that kind of explain why Judd is the way he is?
Yeah, actually that does.
Right? We kind of learn more about maybe he's not just a bad guy. He kind of had bad things done to him, right? Holly?
He said it hurt a lot that he could barely even get home.
Right? He could barely even get his shirt on. What does that kind of remind you of in our story? Does it remind you of any character in our story?
Shiloh?
So, kind of Shiloh, right? How he couldn't even walk, right? Kind of reminds you of that part. So it kind of makes a little sense. All right. Let's look at our chapter 6 page. And we're going to do the character analysis and the stop and jot. Okay? So, we have, actually, you know what? Let's do the point of view. Let's jump over here. We're going to jump over to the point of view part. All right. So we talked a lot in the beginning of the year about point of view. Remember we did like the first, second, third person? We can also talk about characters' point of view, seeing it from their part of the story. So let's think about their truck ride at the end of the chapter. Marty and Judd. Okay? What is Judd's point of view about the story being told? What does Judd think? Like if Judd's telling the story, what does he think about his childhood? What does he think? Zach? You just gotta kind of live with life, right? It was bad. but it is
What it is.
It is what it is. What did he say he does not want to get? Remember? He doesn't want to accept what word? He doesn't want to accept sorry, right? He's like, I don't need your apologies. I'm fine. It is what it is. Move on.
Got it.
Huh? What does Marty think about that story, though, then? What does Marty think about his story? Amelia? Marty feels sorry. Why does Marty feel sorry? What do you think, fourth graders? Why does Marty feel sorry for Judd? Claire?
Because he probably never felt what it feels like to be abused child.
He never felt that love, right, or that need. And if I do BC, do you know what that means? Because he never felt needed or loved. Thank you for following along in your book fourth grade or in your workbook fourth grade friends. Very good integrity. Okay. All right, and then the last part, I'm going to have that be your homework. If you look underneath the little lip, it says my point of view, so your point of view. So not right this moment, please. Think through, how do you respond to that story? What do you think about the story? All right, let's come up to the justify it then. Okay? How does Marty justify his lies? Remember, he's like, the lies just keep building and building. It feels like my whole life is a lie. How does he justify them? What is his reason? Why are his lies okay? Because lying's never okay. Why are his lies okay? Christian? He's trying to save a dog's life, right?
Because dogs should be more treated like good than bad.
He's trying to save a dog's life.
Not his.
Not even his dog, just a dog, right? He's like, and even, remember what he said about snakes? Snakes deserve to live too, even though some of us might not agree with him just because they're snakes.
I don't like snakes that.
But everything does have a right to live. And a hush fell over the class. Just because you don't like it, Adam's right, doesn't mean that it doesn't deserve to live. You cannot like something. Rosie, we'll go back to it after, okay? All right, and then we're going to do just one last part today. Let's do the character analysis for Judd. We've learned a lot of new things about Judd, haven't we? We need at least 4. Let's see if we can come up with at least 4 new words to describe Judd, or what we learned from this chapter. Holly?
He wasn't really treated nice by Felicia.
Do you know what that word is for somebody who gets hurt as a kid? Abused, right? We know he was abused or hurt as a kid. What's another one? Lizzie?
He was kind of still suspicious.
Ooh, he's still suspicious.
I'm just writing stuff.
Thank you for writing out suspicious. Zach?
Oh, he's desperate.
He's desperate. What do you mean by desperate?
Like, to give the dog, he really wants it.
Right? He's looking all over for this dog. Really wants it. Brooke?
He got beat up.
That's kind of with that abuse. Yep, he got beat up.
I think it's more like in a. Wait, I still have my thing. I think it's more like the family. Like, if his dad beat him up, then that will probably have a more percent chance that he would beat other people that he had up to.
Yep, so going off of that abused one still. But yep, so he's more likely. Like, it kind of makes sense why he's doing it. Claire?
Like going off of Brooks, kind of following what their father did.
He's kind of a follower. That is a good way to put it.
Except he doesn't follow the laws.
He doesn't follow the laws, but he follows what he knows, right? He's kind of a follower of his family. Holly?
And he kind of did get a little kind because he let Marty get a
Yeah, so he's a little, we can do a little kind. And we might want to do an example, right? Like gave a ride. Because did he have to offer Marty a ride? No, he didn't. He could have said, okay, do yourself and move on. He was like, oh, you still have a long way to walk. Like, let me help you out. So maybe he's a little kind. Rose?
But Marty's not supposed to get rides.
Rides from strangers. Does he know Judd?
Yeah.
He knows Judd. Yep. But normally he's not supposed to get a ride from strangers. Remember what he said the problem with that is?
He knows almost everything.
Why does he know almost everyone?
Because his dad's a male person.
Because his dad knows everyone. So remember, it's that small town. All right, so fourth grade friends, your homework for today is to do the stop and jot question. How do you think Marty and Judd's drive will affect the rest of the story? And then your point of view. So that's what we've got for homework today. Take care.